Are the Cavs going to make a trade? Will the Warriors try to upgrade their roster? Is Anthony Davis the kind of player to carry his team to wins? The only question left is, say it with me, you win?
Talk about the Nuggets.
Hey, sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to the B-Ball Breakdown podcast / live show / Dave wants to talk while I'm starting to do my intro. So here, welcome to the show. Dave, thank you for joining us. As always, glad to be back with you on Periscope. We haven't spoken in a little while, and it's time to do some talking about the NBA. How's it going? Your season's over.
Yeah, it is. I coached my last game Thursday night, and, it was sad. I'm going to miss those kids, and, it was a fun time. Yeah.
It sounded like you went out with a bang a couple games before that, too.
Oh, yeah, I did. I was kicked out with a bang. It was interesting.
Okay.
Three technicals. I don't know how it's possible for a coach to get 3 technicals. They were back to back to back. I did ask for the second one, to be fair.
Okay. Well, you're supposed to only get 2, then you're gone, right? So how do you get the third?
I don't know. There was an old thing where I guess they used to be able to give up to 4, and some of the refs haven't caught up. So.
Okay. Well, awesome. Well, let's talk about the Cavs because, they had an interesting game against the Houston Rockets. I was looking forward to watching it, thinking, okay, let's see where they're at. They had a couple of days off even maybe in that whole stretch, and it didn't go so well for them. What were your initial reaction to that?
The Rockets just looked like they were out there playing against no one. It was I don't know, man. If you're the Cavs, you've got to be embarrassed. I've never seen LeBron look the way he looked during that game. I think he only took 10 shots in the whole game. I don't have the box score up in front of me, he looked passive. And, the Rockets are just they're a better team, first of all. But are they a 30-point better team than the Cavs? I don't know. So they still have the same effort issues. They still got the same personnel issues, and it has not changed, and I don't see a way that this personnel is going to get any better at the things that they're struggling at. So I expect the next few days to be quite busy in Cleveland.
I know, but that's a big problem because they really don't have anybody to trade except for Kevin Love, and he's injured now, so no one's going to trade for him. I think that they're screwed. They're not going to get a deal done, right? Like, what deal could they possibly make that's going to help them get better?
The Nets pick is by far their best asset, by far. And according to Brian Windhorst and Zach Lowe and multiple other people who are reporting, the Cavaliers have no intention on trading the Nets pick. The Nets actually have one of the hardest schedules in the league. For the last 30 games or whatever. Yeah, so there's a chance that pick looks better at the end or in the middle of April than it does today. So we'll see. But also, I don't know, man. It's a tough spot, and it's the same tough spot that they've been in since October. Or wait, when was the Kyrie trade? September.
Yeah.
Isaiah Thomas. I don't know if he'll ever be back. I know that you dealt with a similar hip issue, and you've said since the beginning, hey, this is not something that you come back from. You just don't quite recover the same, and I think we're seeing that currently. He's been back for a little bit now. We should be seeing normal Isaiah, and it's just not happening.
Yeah, and I'm looking carefully at it on the TV, and I asked my buddy Tommy Tempesta over at B Biomechanics to look. And if he's noticing any kind of gait things that would indicate that there's some pain in the hip and it's not balanced, and he says he does, the thing I would look for is sort of shuffling back and forth. That's sort of what happens when your hip starts to go is you kind of get a side-to-side action going. And again, he can play at a pretty top level, but it's just extremely painful after the game, and he's got to deal with probably a lot of pain medication in between to deal with that, deep tissue massages. So you could probably get to a point where it's not quite bothering you too much, but again, when you're playing, hey, I was playing on it, at my level on high-level pickup, I suppose, 4 times a week, but that's not even close to what he's going through. So, and even, I don't even know, if you play 4 pickup games, right, over the course of an hour and a half, I still don't think that would encapsulate 32 minutes of an NBA game. It probably doesn't even get close. So anyway, the point being that, and I played really hard, so it wasn't like I was loafing around out there. But even still, I have to imagine it's going to be a problem for him. And yeah, rest isn't going to help necessarily, and neither does exercise. So it's a tough situation to be in. Did they have to trade Kyrie?
No, they didn't. That's the crazy part. I mean, if you've listened to any David Griffin's podcast interviews where he's talked about this, or even on his Sirius XM show, yeah. His intention was never to trade Kyrie unless Kyrie said he wanted out.
Well,
but David Griffin was the guy who was checking out deals. David Griffin was the guy that kind of like held all these relationships together. So, once David Griffin was out, the story that he told on I believe it was a podcast with David Thorpe and Tom Havastro. Maybe like a month ago. It was fantastic. And he laid the whole thing out there. And his intention was not to trade Kyrie. Kyrie wanted to trade because he was being shopped. That's it.
Okay.
That's how it started. So, no, they did not have to trade Kyrie. And I think that was a huge mistake, as we're seeing right now.
Right. Well, I mean, that's another question is if a player demands a trade and he's a good player like that, can you weather that storm ever, or do you have to simply say we have to do it? Because in theory, the player doesn't has no leverage, right? He's going to have to play. He's under contract. I'm trying to remember. Did James Harden didn't demand a trade, right? They just knew that it wasn't going to work, right? In OKC.
Yeah. They were worried about the tax, and he wouldn't accept less than the max deal that he got. When he was.
So kind of ipso facto demanded the trade in some weird way, right?
Kind of. Not really. I mean, that was put down as a financial issue, but it was a mistake. But back to Cleveland, I refuse to believe that relationship was beyond repair. LaMarcus Aldridge asked for a trade as well, and he and Pop worked it out.
Yeah.
I just think if you've got a good person in there making basketball decisions that has a good relationship with the players, which David Griffin, from every report we've ever heard, that's the case. He's a real professional NBA front office guy. That they figure out a way to make these things work, so that at least if you don't keep the player, you at least get the best deal available. And maybe this was the best deal available. I don't know.
Well, that was it. They were arguing with Woj and Zach Lowe. They were arguing in the podcast about that, if that was the best deal. It might have been, sort of. You never kind of get the value back for a star like when you trade someone like Kyrie anyway. But I have to imagine, if Isaiah had been able to play since day one and wasn't hurt and could play anywhere near what we saw last year, I would still say it's probably not the worst, but here's the thing: is you have a guaranteed finals appearance with that team.
Yeah,
and then they traded it away for some stuff. Now, in theory, they were trying to improve that finals appearance, or that improve upon that by bringing in Crowder, which in theory would have been better. But you hear from some of the Boston guys that maybe Crowder really wasn't that good of a defender, and it was with Brad Stevens and his system that really helped him. And you know what? Isaiah Thomas might have been really helped as well in that whole situation. Suddenly, remember how you talked about Mike D'Antoni's offense would create these players that would have these amazing seasons on offense and then never recreate them again anywhere else?
Chris Duhon.
Who's the guy who played for the Lakers? Oh, he was like a 6'9", small forward.
Oh, Earl Clark.
Yeah, Clark. And he never looked as good as he did with D'Antoni. Well, Brad Stevens might be even a more profound effect because, in theory, he might even help you on the defensive end too, with the system and the way they teach it or something. And so we're seeing that now. I mean, listen, Kyrie, I think, is a different player too. And even though the Cavs fans, can't bear to admit that, he just plays differently, even though we don't necessarily see it in the stats. You know what I mean? There's just something different about the style, and it's not even a knock on the Cavs. It's just it is a different style, but I think it's better. So there you go.
Yeah, I think that Brad Stevens has done an amazing job as a coach there. I mean, he's overachieved almost every single season, including this one where they lost Gordon Hayward 3 minutes into the season.
Is it a surprise where they are now to you?
A little bit. And I still think that, if you dig into the numbers a little bit, they've played a little bit. I just said a little bit 4 times or whatever. Yes, it's late. But if you dig into the numbers, you can see, yes, they're playing a little bit above their head. I mean, their offense is atrocious, especially without Kyrie. I guess even with Kyrie, it's not good. It's just that Kyrie is really good. Their defense is great. But, yeah, they're not – I don't know. I don't think they should necessarily be the 1 seed. They had that really hot stretch, and that sort of propelled them to where they are now. But with that being said, we watched them play the Golden State Warriors, who are for sure the best team in the league, and they were hanging with them the whole time. So what do I know?
Yeah, well, I think that's the beauty of Brad Stevens is he can teach his players how to play up. So they could rise to that occasion and do that. And in a playoff series, you got to give them, a lot of, consideration there. At the very least, to make it to the conference finals and then maybe beyond. But, you're right. There is definitely something there. When Kyrie is out, it's a troubling look for them on offense. And, things just kind of need to be exactly right. Whereas, in theory, with Gordon Hayward, you had some leeway to, not have it be perfect all the time. And so that's the only other question. I don't know if it's a great idea that Gordon is sort of teasing people with the notion of that he's been around now in the media in a way that we wonder if he's coming back. I just, again, I think we both on the same page. He shouldn't come back. It's not worth it for what he went through. Do you want to know the numbers on the on-off numbers for Kyrie?
Yes.
Okay. So Irving, when Kyrie's on the floor, the offensive rating is 108.4. When he's off, it's 99. It's almost a 9-point drop. That's a pretty big drop. And then his net rating is plus 6.6 on the court. And then when he's off, it's plus 2.1. So they're actually doing okay. Locking guys down and just sort of scoring enough when he's off. So that's encouraging if you're a Celtics fan.
I don't think they're a bad team. I don't think they're this juggernaut that they sort of look like if you just looked at their record. And maybe that doesn't even look like a juggernaut. They won a lot of really close games. They beat Al Horford hit a buzzer beater yesterday to beat Portland. So, it is what it is. There's the Golden State Warriors. Then I think below them, there's the Houston Rockets. And then it's just everybody else. And, it's unfortunate. I really was looking – I hate to say this, but I was looking forward to the Cavs, I don't know, catching fire at some point and looking like they were going to be a contender. But I just don't – I don't think this is going to be one of those years where they can just turn it on. I think that time has passed. Maybe LeBron has lost just enough of a step. I dug into the numbers a little bit, and the last month, January was one of the worst months of his career.
Oh.
Yeah,
is that
his
right?
numbers. Yeah, his efficiency numbers were. He just shot the ball. Not great. It was really bad. And he just looked tired. When you watch the games, there's a lot of that where whether it's a lot of people are claiming indifference, but I just refuse to believe that LeBron James is indifferent if he's in a basketball game.
Although I see indifference, but I kind of see it. I did a video on how NBA stars rest on defense, and you should watch it if you haven't because it's really good. And I see the indifference certainly on the defensive end, and I also sense that these guys probably aren't getting along, right? It just doesn't feel like these guys are getting along at all in the locker room, and that seems kind of apparent too. So you're mixing some things up, which makes it different than the years past, even though they might not have all. This just feels different, and primarily because of that. There just seems to be a lot of infighting in the locker room. And then the biggest problem is if he's going to try and rest on defense like he would normally do or kind of want to do, the bottom line is he's still the leader, and that's what's going to, everyone else is going to follow his cue, and that's the biggest issue. And again, I guess is the point. The point was they've always been able to turn it on defense and play a lot better. Right, and that was the fact of the matter, right? The last couple of years, right?
Right.
But man, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel that way now, and I guess we say it every year though, so maybe we're gonna be wrong again.
I don't know. I hope so. I'm not ready for the. I like having LeBron in the finals. I think it's fun. You
know what it's like? Okay, I'm gonna actually mention football. Can you believe this?
Okay.
At some point. Tom Brady can't just lead you down the field for the game-winning thing in the last 40 seconds of a game. You can't do it every time, right? Just what doesn't happen. Just won't happen. Law of averages, whatever. The Cavaliers are probably in that same position.
Sure. I did not watch the Super Bowl. I did not watch a single down of football this year.
I went to a party a neighbor had, and so I'm embarrassed to say I watched it. I really just watched the commercials.
Well, don't be embarrassed. It is what it is. I watched Mindhunter.
Oh, isn't that great?
It's really good.
And by the way,
really
what makes it better is that the star was the guy who played King George in Hamilton, which I don't know if you've seen Hamilton, but
I haven't seen Hamilton.
It's just an amazing transformation for him to play that role and then to be in Mindhunter. So, by the way, what episode are you on in Mindhunter?
I finished it.
All right, so you're as pissed off as I am with the way it ended at the last show?
Yeah, it was not. Yeah.
It's the all-time cliffhanger. Like, what? Like, how can you leave us there? And it's like they built up this whole thing. And we're waiting. Now we got to wait till when does it even come on? Do we know?
I have no idea. Probably
I just started watching The Wire again, by the way. I just finally tried to start watching it for the 5th time in a row, or 5th time to watch it again, to get through the 3rd episode. And apparently that it's the 4th one, the 4th episode of season 1 that gets you, I think, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I was there with episode 1. I love The Wire.
Yeah. I don't know. I've tried and I've gotten through the 3 episodes probably 2 different times and just kind of don't make it. So I'm trying again. Give me the fight. Should we go some questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's see some questions here because this is Periscope as well, and we want to talk to the people who are out there. Let's see. Legendary NBA said LeBron looks like the most disinterested I've seen him in years, which is true. We just mentioned that. Okay. And then he also wanted to know, do you think that Coach Lou's on the hot seat if the deal doesn't get done? Now, that's interesting because I believe they came out and gave him a big vote of confidence, right?
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. The vote of confidence is just like the GM coming out and saying, we're not trading this person or whatever. Come on. What are they supposed to say? Right. Now, with that being said, they're not going to fire Lou, and I don't think they should. At this point, it's too late. First of all, you're not bringing in a new coach in February and fixing the problems.
Who do they have? They have Larry Drew,
I guess. I don't know, but I don't. They're not going to fire him. Let's just say that that's unrealistic. I mean, I guess if they miss the playoffs, he'd be fired, but then that's after the season.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
if they were mathematically eliminated.
Right. I mean, listen, they're tied for 3rd right now, 7.5 games behind with the Wizards. Only a game and a half in front of the 5th place Bucks, who are coming on. I mean, right. So they're in danger of falling to 5th.
They're 4.5 games. So they're 4.5 games ahead of the Sixers, who are in the 8th spot, and the Pistons are tied for that 8th spot. So I mean, they're 4.5 games ahead of the team outside of the playoffs.
Yep.
Now, 4.5 games can definitely be made up in the remaining what's left in the schedule. We've got 30 games left, roughly. I'm not saying it's outside the realm of possibility, but it is not a good sign when Tyronn Lue has to come out and say, we are definitely making the playoffs.
Yeah, not
right?
terrible.
That's not great. If you had said to me that before the All-Star break, he was going to come out and have to say that they're not going to miss the playoffs, I would have been shocked. I would have thought LeBron got hurt.
Right. Yeah. Well, and again, what they have is LeBron, and this is the question: what team? How bad does the team have to be for LeBron to join it and get them into the playoffs or get them into the conference finals, right? And so on Twitter, someone asked me that. So it's like, could he do it with the Suns, or could he do it with who's last in the East? Could he do it with the Hawks
or the Magic?
Could he get the Hawks in the playoffs?
I think so. I think he could.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he could get any team in the playoffs.
The Hawks, get into the playoffs, yes. But, I've wondered if the Hawks might have, especially with Kevin Love out, the Hawks could have a better supporting cast around LeBron than the Cavs do.
Oh, wow. How's that for a video idea?
It's crazy, isn't it? It's weird to think about. And most of this is just because it's regular season, and these guys are old, and so some of them may not even be trying hard. But I don't know. Who would have thought that J.R. Smith would just forget how to shoot?
Yeah.
And Tristan Thompson's knee would act up, and he couldn't, he wasn't lost enough athleticism that he wasn't able to do the things that he did well, to the point where he should be on the court. Jay Crowder last year, wasn't great, Now that you go back and you look at it in hindsight, he hadn't been great this year at all. Isaiah Thomas not doing well. Meanwhile, in Atlanta, I mean, you'd have Schroeder, you'd have Bazemore, you'd have Taurean Prince, you'd have John Collins, you'd have Dwayne Dedman, you'd have guys.
Yeah,
right?
Silva, Bellinelli. I think you're right. Wow. I think you're right.
And again, like, it was just when you said that, I was just thinking out loud. But like, it's really weird. And part of that, man, is just that these guys are old. And I don't know if you read the Windhorst stuff. He made a really interesting point about guys that haven't been through it with LeBron acting like they should be getting the respect like the guys that have been through it. Yeah. I thought that was a really interesting point. And we talked quite a bit about IT kind of going at Kevin Love. Well, Kevin Love is still a good basketball player, and IT has not been since he came back. The other night, IT was talking about previous teams he'd been on and their defensive. What do you want to call what he was saying? The effort, I guess, where guys were jumping on the floor, and I got what he meant. He meant hustling, working hard, things like that. So I'm sorry, man, but like, if you live in a glass house, right, maybe don't sit around throwing rocks.
Right.
IT is the worst defender on that team by a long shot. He's worse than Derrick Rose. By the way, the two of them shared the court the other night.
Oh, I know. I mentioned that. Yeah, when he came back, it was the fabled. That's my tweet. I had a little thing, and they got scored on really easily. Like the fabled Rose Thomas backcourt, which. Yeah, it was kind of shocking. They want to try and play those guys together, but that shows you where they're at, where they're just kind of like desperate to get minutes for people and just throw some stuff in the wall and hope something sticks. Should we go to the West a little bit? I think we should, pivot a little bit to talk about the West, because I think the DYL asked a good question where he said, should the Warriors be making McCaw available? And I know on Twitter we were talking about this about an hour ago. What are your thoughts?
His restricted free agency this summer is going to potentially be tricky, although he hasn't kind of blown up like you and I thought he might. Maybe that number won't be too bad. And they will have his bird rights, so they can bring him back. It's just money. But they may be looking to replace him with, a minimum guy or another guy on a rookie deal. So like either with their late first or second rounder. I'm not sure. The trade that Zach Lowe floated in his column today I thought was really interesting. Apparently, one that's kind of been kicked around is McCaw for Joe Harris. Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, he would add some shooting coming off the bench, essentially like a Klay Thompson light.
Yeah. By the way, and he finishes at the basket well. If you haven't seen this version of Joe Harris, who, by the way, when he came into the league with Cleveland, I really liked what he was doing. He looked like he was going to fit in really well, and I do you know what happened? Like, he just gave up on him so quickly, and then he was gone. It was weird.
I mean, it just happens sometimes. I think, especially with Cleveland, that it just seemed like they were getting in all those veteran guys.
Okay.
So
weird, because he
gotta make space.
He looks so good now. I watched him the other day where he was just scoring at will and hitting threes, floaters at the basket. And that's the problem. Is McCaw has probably a lot more upside defensively, and we've seen him shoot well at times, but it's just been frustrating to watch him. He's just going too fast. And he doesn't have enough, base, enough balance, basically. And he's trying to do everything too much, too fast.
I liked what they were doing with McCaw early in the season, where they were giving him more ball handling responsibility. I felt like he was getting into a better rhythm then. I mean, he was making mistakes, but this is what the regular season's for championship contenders. It's the laboratory. You're treating it like that way. Stevens was doing this the other night with his crazy lineups where he had Tice and he had Baines playing together with Semi Ojeleye. I mean, it's just some kind of crazy kooky lineups. Obviously, Pop is the best at this, and I liked what they were doing, and then they kind of went away from it, and I'm not quite sure why. Maybe there was an issue with confidence or something like that. But yeah. I mean, we both really like McCaw, but I think that for them, if they're going to lose McCaw this summer or not bring him back, let's say, sort of like they did with Ian Clark, it would make sense for them to get a guy who's going to be a better player right now, and that would probably be Joe Harris, right?
Right.
I think that's not a bad trade for them.
Absolutely, and that's the point, because they actually could afford to bring McCall along a little bit longer and let him develop more. But they're in win now mode. You know what I mean? Any chance they can get to improve a player, that they will do that. There was without question. You know, they can't afford to rest on their laurels either, because I have to tell you, there are more moments in games this year with the Warriors where it doesn't feel as invincible as we might think. For whatever reason, there's something about it when they go with these cold stretches and they look very mortal. And the cold stretches don't necessarily reflect the defense, even though I know people will say, even when they get open, if you're playing really hard defense and then those open shots become that much harder too because they're not used to being it, they're out of rhythm. I don't know, man. I can just tell you that there are those moments when they're collectively getting cold, and it doesn't look as good as it would normally do. So I don't know.
Well,
that's why they probably want to upgrade a little bit.
Well, yeah, I tell you, one of the teams that they just lost to twice, the Denver Nuggets. They've kind of got their Steph Curry clone. I mean, of course, he's not quite there yet, but Jamal Murray, Gary Harris, who's a good kind of Klay Thompson light.
Wait,
better ball
see
handler.
Jamal Murray in the Steph Curry? I mean, their names rhyme, but I don't know. That's about all I get.
There's a lot of Curry's game in Murray. Now, Murray's also 20 years old, so
okay.
Let's not jump to any conclusions. But I think that there's a lot of Curry in
all right.
Jamal Murray's game.
I think that Murray is 100 times better as an athlete. Right? So that's not what you're talking about, I guess, right?
Oh, I don't know. Curry is a really good athlete.
Steph
Curry's a very good athlete.
But Murray can play above the rim, right? I mean, he can kind of
Murray,
right?
Kind of. I mean, kind of. I just think he's a really good shooter. He's a decent ball handler, good passer. He's not Steph Curry. It's Steph Curry clone. Steph Curry light.
All right.
Before I get all these tweets.
I'm not feeling that. But listen, I like Murray a lot, and I'm so glad to see him develop. Remember, all we wanted to do last year was please put Moody on the bench, let Murray just have those minutes right away. And we're seeing it now. And Denver is going to be one of those teams, if they can get Millsap back and he can kind of fit in at all, they're the team that no one's going to want to play, especially because they're going to have the advantage at home. I don't know if they're going to have home court advantage in the first round, whatever, but that's going to be a real advantage for them in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean they still will get home games,
right?
So that's one thing. But I love that team. I think Gary Harris is fantastic. Obviously, we like Nikola Jokic. Trey Lyles is going to be a nice scorer for them off the bench when Millsap gets back in the lineup, which I'm hoping is after the All-Star break.
Yeah.
That team, I think, is poised to take off. And then the Utah Jazz have been just insane the last few games. They've won 6 in a row.
All right, I got some numbers for you for the Utah Jazz.
Perfect.
Although, here it is. Okay, so overall for the season, where is the season? Here it is. Okay, so their net rating is 1.2, and their offensive rating for the whole season is 105.8. Because if you notice, over the last 10 games, they're 8-2, and they've had this big explosion offensively. So in the last 10 games, though, their offensive rating has gone from it's 105.8 for the whole season, it's 113.9, and it's probably even higher over the last 5 games, which I can do in a second. They are just lighting teams up across the board, and it's hard to imagine what's going on. Can you give us any insight?
Well, they're shooting above 50% on threes. That helps.
Yeah. The last 5 games, their offense rating is 121.3, which is the number one by far. So and their net rating is 21. They're just killing teams by 20 points the last 5 games, maybe even more. Yeah. So crazy.
Yeah, Rubio has been fantastic. Looks like he's really got his legs under him. Obviously, having your best player missing for most of the season, he's back. He's healthy. Gobert. Yeah. So that helps them quite a bit on both ends of the ball because he is not just a defensive player.
Right, because his hands are so good.
They're okay.
They're okay.
But he does a lot of stuff offensively that really helps that team.
Sure.
And then tonight it was Rodney Hood. Rodney Hood had an incredible game.
Hey.
Yeah, finally. If he could just stay healthy and keep string these games together, then he's going to get himself paid this summer. But this has been a year that's almost a lost year for him with the injuries and stuff. Joe Ingles has been fantastic the last few games. Just seems like the guys are kind of clicking. And I would put that on having a healthy Gobert in the lineup. I really think that continuity, chemistry, things like that are important for a basketball team. I mean, you and I talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Look at the Raptors. You get these guys together, these starting lineups. The Wizards, when they're all there, they always play really well. And Quinn Snyder's done a hell of a job coaching this team. His offense is very much, it's an egalitarian offense, and the ball finds the guys who are hot. And I think that that's really important.
Yeah.
And tonight it was Rodney Hood. The other night it was Ricky Rubio, who just was insane.
Yeah. It's crazy. Now, they're 3 games behind the 8th spot and 3.5 games behind the 6th spot. Are they making the playoffs?
I think they will. I worry about the Pelicans without Boogie. I mean, if you lose a top 25 player, it's just hard to, replace that production.
Oh, you're gonna say top 25? That's as high as you're gonna go for Boogie?
No. I'm just saying a top 25 player.
Okay.
I'm not making any. This is not me saying Boogie is like
24th,
number 25 or anything like that.
Right.
No.
Well, here's the thing.
If your team loses a top 25 player, it's hard to replace that production.
Yeah,
so
but they still have one.
Sure, and it's great. I mean, they've got a guy who's like top 6 or something like that, right? So they lost a guy who's like, I don't know, 11 or 12th, and they've still got one guy.
Yeah.
But what else do they have?
Right, and they're 5-5. They lost 2 in a row. I don't know. I think I might need to do a video, and the definitive, once and for all video to explain why Anthony Davis gives me some pause. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it, but there's something about, I mean, the numbers are there, but there's something about the way he plays that just doesn't make me feel like he's really a dominating superstar.
Okay. All right. Now, is it because he will not play the 5?
Yeah. I mean, well, I don't know. I mean, maybe, I guess we need to see it a little bit more before we can make that decision. But, right, he would probably be, I think, yeah, where you're going is if he did play the 5, you should destroy teams, right?
Right.
Because you couldn't handle, and certainly for like 5 minutes a game, whatever it is, they couldn't handle that, right? No center. They'd have to go small too and play Draymond the 5 or whatever.
Right.
So yeah, that makes sense to me.
Tonight there was a stretch where Gobert was having to guard Anthony Davis on the wing because Anthony Davis was playing the 5, and I was even saying, you know what, Snyder's got to get Gobert out of there. You can't have him, especially with the knee issue this year. You want to take it easy. And that's a matchup nightmare. A traditional 5 trying to guard Anthony Davis on the wing, or a more traditional 5, I should say.
Well, by the way, B-Ball Ref has him playing center at 34% of the time this year, which is he
Sure.
Apparently last year was 64%.
Right. He just doesn't like it. This is like a Tim Duncan thing.
It's not like it's going to be too physical though.
No, the game doesn't work that way.
So he doesn't like it because he's down low. He's not moving around enough.
I don't know, man. Kevin Durant's 7 feet tall and is listed at 6'9" for because on purpose.
Right.
I don't understand some of the decisions that people make.
Right.
Like Tim Duncan was listed as a power forward for his entire career, despite the fact that he was a center.
Right. I mean, okay. Yeah. So the Anthony Davis conundrum is an interesting thing where you can't argue. Let's look at his numbers. His numbers right now per game: 27 points a game, 10.6 rebounds, 2.5 assists, 1.2 steals, 2.1 blocks. Not a lot of turnovers. Shoots 54.5% from the field. He's shooting two threes a game and 35%, so almost average, basically. But there's just something lacking that when I don't get that feeling when I watch him, and I think we're kind of seeing it. He's certainly not the kind of guy who's going to carry your team to wins, right?
I just don't know that the NBA is the type of place where one guy can do it, unless that one guy is LeBron. And even LeBron, listen, I think we forget. The year that LeBron went back to Cleveland and they got Kevin Love and they had Kyrie, remember they were going to roll off, oh man, this team is like the new super team and they're going to three-peat and all this stuff. And then the Warriors kind of came out of nowhere. They didn't really come out of nowhere because they had a nice showing in the playoffs before, but came out of nowhere to come win the championship that first year. And then all of a sudden, the narrative switched. And it was, well, LeBron needs more help and all this stuff.
Yeah. Well, listen, James Harden is a guy that will carry your team to wins.
Sure.
Russell Westbrook could be that guy sometimes. Yeah, I know. But he is. right? You saw
Sure.
them when they beat the Warriors. It's like Russ, he could be that guy. So
Sure.
I'm telling you, that's not the way Anthony Davis is. It's not like a knock on him. He
No.
probably needs a guy like Boogie next to him, but I'm not sure that it's Boogie in that position that should be next to him, right? He needs the Kawhi Leonard next to him or the James Harden next to him. That seems to be the thing he needs.
Or a
to
Kevin
balance
Durant.
or Kevin Durant. Wow, so you want to have him in center and Kevin Durant at the power forward or something like that?
Oh yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Sure.
Yeah. So that's he and it's just more of a mindset maybe than anything else, and it's not his fault if he doesn't have that mindset. It's just not the way he's built. But as a result, he's just that leaves something for me lacking that most guys in his stratosphere have and kind of need, and so he's that good that he can kind of be that way and still rack up these numbers, but they're just sort of hollow. They don't lead to victories like other players do.
Yeah, I mean, and it may be true, but I mean, he has carried that team to the playoffs before. They lost to the Warriors, but he did take them to the playoffs, and as of right now, he's been the best player on a team that's looks like it could be in the playoffs as long as they don't continue to fall off. So, I mean, I don't know. I'm going to argue with you on that one. I think Anthony Davis is a really, really good player who also contributes to winning.
And you know what? If I go through the footage like I want to do maybe this week, I might end up agreeing with you. I never really just sort of focus only on Anthony Davis and just really looked at what he does. And I might change my mind, so we'll see.
And,
But it's always my feeling when I watch Pelican games and just sort of,
Let's not forget that he's also never really had like a good wing on that team, and it's a wing league. Yeah. Drew Holiday has been the point guard. It's a GMs make these teams. I hate to fault a player when especially a guy who's still under his rookie deal essentially. I mean, he's on his extension, but you know what I mean. And he, I don't know, doesn't really have a whole lot of choice. And it's not his fault that they signed Solomon Hill to that big contract, and Drew Holiday's making $25 million. So yeah.
All right, let's do. As we wrap this up, let's go through rapid fire 10-second answers, and we'll get through a bunch of questions right away. Okay, you ready?
All right, let's do it.
Do you expect Boston to make a trade?
Yes.
Interesting.
I did.
Yes. Okay. That's Marcus Smart, right?
I think Marcus Smart's getting moved.
Okay. Is John Wall being absent and the Wizards winning for real?
Yes. The ball is not sticking. The ball is moving a lot more. Does it mean that they're better without John Wall? No.
Interesting. It looks better. It looks better to me just on aesthetics, and I like Bradley Beal so much that it's like fun to watch him get more opportunities. Who will the best rookie 3 years from now? Who will be the best rookie 3 years from now? Jesus, I don't know.
Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell.
No, I see. I'm thinking of like in 3 years, a rookie. How are you going to know? Okay. Donovan Mitchell? Interesting. Okay.
I mean, probably Ben Simmons, but Donovan Mitchell.
Right. Okay. Oh, that's a good answer. Okay. Was Paul George a cancer in Indianapolis last year?
Oh, no, I've never heard anything.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think he just kind of, it was a distraction, but I wouldn't call him a cancer.
Right.
Should the Hawks make a run at Marcus Smart? The Hawks?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Doesn't really move the needle for me. And plus, what would they give him? What would the Celtics want? Like
they want so what they want a first round pick so that they can get Tyreek Evans.
What?
Yeah. They want to get Tyreek Evans. That's the move.
I see. So they need a pick to then trade it right away for Tyreek Evans.
Right.
Okay.
Essentially, it'd be like a 3-teamer.
All right. Well, that's why you're on the show, Dave.
There you go.
Dennis Smith Jr. looking real good again. Finals predictions. Who makes it out of both conferences? Warriors and... Oh, do you have the Warriors?
Yeah, Warriors. Okay. And
don't say it. Start to the T, end to the no.
Warriors and Celtics.
Okay. I might go Toronto. I mean...
I love Toronto,
Let's just burn the Cavs house down right now.
Yeah.
What is Giannis' best position?
Ooh, I think he's a 5. I think he's a 0.5.
Yeah, I think that's his best position for sure. Not that he needs to play it the whole game, but that's probably where he gets the most. And we need those stats. We need breaking out stats based on where they're playing in the position because I want to know. And I don't think we've seen that, right? Does anyone do that, Dave?
Someone does. I think maybe Cleaning the Glass does it.
Oh, really? Oh, get the friend of the breakdown, Ben Falk. We'll have to get him on the show and talk about that. What do you? Let's see here. What are you guys liking about Satoransky and the Wizards? I don't know. I've only watched the Wizards a little bit recently, and Satoransky's one of those guys like McCaw who I've been kind of waiting for, and there's glimpses, but he's probably had more glimpses than McCaw has of being good.
His defense is great, especially in the pick and roll, and he's got so much length and size. So yeah, I mean, if his offense comes around, man, he's a really good player.
Okay, sounds good to me. When Portland makes a decision, who are they parting with, Dame or CJ?
CJ.
I don't think they're going to make the decision, though. Do you?
Will Neil O'Shea make the decision? No.
Okay. Oh, are you saying he's going to get rid of him?
I don't know.
Wow.
I don't have any sources on that. I'm just saying.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, I don't have any sources on that. I'm just saying. Yeah, I just think it's. I mean, it's tough, man. Like Dame's numbers, if you look at them, like everything about it screams Hall of Fame.
Dame?
All of his numbers. Damian Lillard, his numbers scream Hall of Fame.
Oh, okay. I got to look at them again. I feel like there's an efficiency thing there that maybe not hold him back, right?
Yeah.
But okay,
maybe.
Fine. What is Jerry West's plan for the Clippers?
Tank.
Ooh, okay.
Rebuild.
Okay. I think that the team they have right now, as of today, can make the playoffs and be somewhat competitive. But
who wants to be the 8th seed?
Yeah, and then we're gonna find out if they're going to actually keep this team together, like we said, like it is today. Okay. I think we're going to wrap this up because I think there's some freezing going on. There's some weird stuff going on with the stream, but I know that the podcast will sound bright and clear tomorrow morning when we release this. So anyway, Dave, fantastic stuff. Really, I like the 10-second answer stuff. We should do more of that.
I agree.
All right. Well,
hey, if I can, before we wrap it up, I just want to, because I've been thinking about Giannis quite a bit lately.
Okay.
Giannis at the 5, that should be their, in crunch time, he should be their 5.
Yeah.
And they won't find a better 5 in the league for them in crunch time.
Sure.
There's not a single guy in the league.
Like throw Middleton at power forward.
Or
Snell.
How about Jabari?
Oh, yeah. Jabari, you go
Jabari,
Middleton, and then you can throw Snell, and then Brogdon got hurt, right?
Yeah, Brogdon's out for like 8 weeks or so. I think he'll be back right before the playoffs.
Okay.
But I mean, you got Bledsoe.
Yes, that'll win some games for you. So, really great stuff. Again, we forgot to ask people to rate and review the podcast live, like I should be doing. So, if you like this podcast, you like what we're doing here, head over to iTunes, give us a review, give us a rating. I need more of those. I want some more feedback in writing. It's great to read those, and I'm always trying to keep my eye out to hear what people think. So, head on over there and do that, and that would really help us. So, Dave.
Yeah,
another great
good.
show. Thank you for coming on, and let's do it.
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah,
trade deadline.
Oh, we should have a show.
We should do a show that night.
A live show.
Well, that night after the trade deadline, we can actually break them down instead of like last year where we were kind of waiting for trades to happen.
Okay. All right. We'll do it. We'll do it right this year. Yeah. So stay tuned for that Thursday night, and don't forget, sports fans, at B-Ball Breakdown, we're not a channel. We're a conversation. You in? Are you in, Dave?
Yes, I am.